Welcome to this episode of Ambition Today, a podcast show discussing with other entrepreneurial and ambitious people what it means to achieve success, grow your startup, accomplish your goals, and try to change the world today. On this episode, we are joined by guest Beatriz Helena Ramos, CEO of Dancing Diablo and Dada. Dada is a new visual conversation platform for artists and art enthusiasts. Whatever you're doing right now, please subscribe to the show. We love it. We appreciate it. If you're listening on your iPhone, playing on Stitcher for Android, watching on YouTube, streaming on SoundCloud, or just found us on syscar.co, it really doesn't matter. Wherever you are, make sure you click subscribe before you leave. Love you guys for that. Massive thank you. The sponsor of today's episode of Ambition Today is brought to you by none other than Audible.com. We love Audible.com here on Ambition Today, and please visit audibletrial.com/Ambition Today to download and keep any audiobook for free. This is Ambition Today.
Looking to make your dreams come true? Needing that extra push to become more successful? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Ambition Today with your host, Kevin Siscar.
What's up, world? You are listening to Ambition Today, and I am your host, Kevin Siscar. You can find me on Twitter at @thesiscar or online at www.siscar.co. We have all the most recent episodes up there, as well as some great blog posts. I recommend jumping on there and checking out a recent blog post covering the 12 new companies that just graduated the Founder Institute in New York. Congrats to all the graduates. Really proud of your success, and I can't wait to see what comes of their next chapter. And speaking of graduates from the Founder Institute in New York, on today's program, we are joined by my friend, Beatriz Helena Ramos, CEO of Dancing Diablo and Dada. Dada is a visual conversation platform for artists and art enthusiasts. Dancing Diablo is 14 years now and is a live-action and animation production company based in DUMBO, Brooklyn, with a sister company in Venezuela. It's directed over 100 TV spots, including commercials, promos, videos, and also for the web. Clients include Coca-Cola, JetBlue, Chips Ahoy, Bayer, General Mills, and many, many more. So, Beatriz, gracias por estar aquí este episodio ser solo en español. How'd I do?
Very good, very good. Este episodio va a ser solo en español, ¿no?
Well, thank you for being here. I'm excited today because you're not just an entrepreneur, you're also an artist. And I think anytime you combine entrepreneurship and creativity, you have a very powerful combination. So my first question today is, at what age did you set up your first lemonade stand or school art exhibit? I know that's a cliche, it's sort of a joke, but did you start as an entrepreneur or a creative person first?
That's an interesting question. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here with you. I'm coming from a family of business people and lawyers.
Okay.
I was the artist in the family, and I never thought that I was going to be an entrepreneur. But after all these years, I realized that actually being an artist and being an entrepreneur, we share the same things. Most of the most important things, like, you go against the status quo, you really, when you get an idea, you do everything to get it. You're very creative. You need to be very creative to be an entrepreneur. So I realized that it's the same thing for me. But to answer your question, I did had an art civic first,
okay.
But right away I went into entrepreneurship. I started a comic store with a friend because we just liked the comics and
right.
just like especially the ones that were illustrated at the time.
So currently we are sitting in a studio space in Brooklyn. And I'm looking out the window right now, and I can see the Empire State Building and the beautiful Manhattan skyline. So this is where you are today. How did you get that start in Venezuela? Was the comic book store the first start?
It was a comic book store, and because we...
what was it called?
Caracas Comics.
Okay.
Because we were bringing all kind of graphic novels and stuff, then we thought that it would be cool to invite some of the artists. So there was an artist that we loved, George Pratt. We brought him to Venezuela to do a seminar there, and then we started a whole different business, which was bringing people from Nickelodeon, MTV, Pantone, all kind of house industries, GQ magazine, all kind of people, just to do seminars there. That was, I think, the start for me, that I decided to come to New York, and most of these people were living in New York. So I decided to come here and start all over again.
What was one of the biggest challenges of starting like a brick and mortar business, a store? Because I know now you're in more of the digital space, but I kind of want to hear, the early comparisons to that.
It's we didn't know what we were doing, really.
How old were you at this time?
I was 22.
Okay.
Yeah, so we really didn't know anything, and things were sort of happening. So my partner's dad gave us $2,000 to buy a bunch of comics. We bought them. He gave us space in his engineer's office on the 7th floor. So it actually, people found it very underground, and they loved it because they had to go through all these, different places and to get their comics.
Yeah.
And we had the comics that nobody had. So it was actually a success. At one point, we called. I had a friend in a radio station, and we called her in live, and we told them that we just opened the comic store, and she freaked out because you don't do that. But then she said, like, well, if you want to do it right, let's just do a package. And she did a package, and all of a sudden, we had this radio commercial, and we were an instant success.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Nice. So guidance and mentorship even in the early days.
Well, it was more like luck. I mean, you just do stuff
Right.
and things happen. That's the beauty of it.
All right, cool. I actually just bought my first comic book yesterday. Actually, I was walking through Midtown.
In your life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I've read comic books younger, but I've never gone to a comic book store and bought one. I don't think there's many comic book stores in Buffalo. So I was walking through Midtown yesterday. I was walking down Lexington, and I was walking by Midtown Comics, and I jumped in there, and I bought Justice League Volume 1. And I have to say, like, I read a little bit of it last night, and I thought it meshed kind of well with your background and today's interview. I couldn't put it down. I listen to Audible all the time, and I can't really remember the last time I read a physical book, and it was awesome.
It's great, yeah. I mean, I think I'm over that that stage, but it was huge for me.
So let's get to the real reason we're here. Who would win in a fight, Batman or Superman?
I will go for Batman. Yeah,
Batman?
always.
Really?
Yeah, dark.
Oh, I feel like Superman's got him like all day. I can't wait for the new movie. I think it's going to be awesome. All right, so you started the comic book store. Then what happened?
Then saw the opportunity to come to New York. I just came.
Okay.
George, who was living here, was he was the person who signed the how you call it when you're going to sign a lease and you need a guarantor.
Okay.
Yeah, the comic book artist. He was a guarantor for my first apartment, and it went all from there. So I just looked for work, and actually, my first job in New York was coloring comics on Photoshop for this small company that were doing, all kind of comics. So
that's awesome. I love the comic background. So then eventually you went to MTV. You went to MTV or Disney first?
MTV.
MTV, and how did you end up at MTV? And what was it working at MTV like in the 90s? I mean, TRL was big.
It was amazing. It was incredible. Well, in my first year, I went into I started working on that comic shop, and after 6 months, I did my first illustration on the New York Times. So I started freelancing for them, and within a year, I found the job at MTV Animation. I never thought that I was going to go into animation. I'm an illustrator, but I got that job because of one of the Eric Calderon, who was one of the persons that we had brought to Venezuela for a seminar. He saw my work and he was blown away, and he was like, "You have to work on this show," and he got me the job basically.
So what show was that?
It was an amazing show called Downtown that probably nobody saw because it was so beautiful and good that it only had a season, but the creator has like 6 shows now. So it was a really cool show. They were finishing Beavis and Butthead movie at the time. They were starting Celebrity Deathmatch. There was Daria happening.
Daria was a big hit, yeah.
Yeah, I worked on all the shows nobody knew, but they were the coolest ones. But, they're never the commercial ones.
Yeah.
So working at MTV was amazing because it was like, they were irreverent, and it was MTV Animation. It was a studio with 200 people, 300 people at a time, and they were all artists and creatives. So there was
It's a great atmosphere.
Yeah, there were exhibits, shows, concerts, parties every night, and it was just an amazing time. Yeah.
Cool. All right, and then you actually spent some time at Disney too, right?
Yeah, right before I started Diablo, I worked for DUMBO Pictures, which was owned by Disney, and we were doing a Stanley. It's called a preschool show down in Soho. And that was a great experience. But at the time, I think I was already been working for 5 years in the industry, and I felt that nothing had improved much. Since my first job at MTV, I was earning almost the same amount per week. I had a great reputation from the first day, so that didn't change. And it was, I was supervising from my first job, so I didn't move quickly or anywhere. You could be in those kind of industries, you could be doing the same thing for 50 years.
Right.
I didn't want that.
So how did that translate? So, all right, so then how did Dancing Diablo come out of that?
Well, because the thing is that if you...
And what is Dancing Diablo?
Okay, so the thing is that you specialize, right? So I was a color person. I was doing backgrounds, coloring characters, that kind of thing, styling shows. If I wanted to do storyboards or if I wanted to direct, I couldn't do it. If I wanted to do storyboards, and I had to compete with other people who were much better than me, and I would be earning less if I was doing color. So it's like a catch-22. You don't really get to get out of that thing. So if I wanted to direct,
you get channeled and stuck in your department.
Yeah, if I wanted to direct, which is what I wanted to do, then I had to open my own shop. At least that's what I thought was the easiest
That's
way.
the entrepreneurial mindset coming out right there.
I'm like, okay, let me just open my shop.
This will be easy 10 years later.
Exactly. And I thought, I came to New York, I got all these like great jobs right away. There's nothing more difficult than moving to another country and have success.
Well, yeah.
No, it was like Diablo was the most difficult thing I ever did.
So for those listening and may not know, what is Dancing Diablo?
Okay, Dancing Diablo is an animation studio. We started doing animation for TV and moved quickly into doing commercials and promos. We do all kind of content for video, and at some point we open a production house too, so live action, everything really.
So what were the early years of Dancing Diablo like? What was it like? So you just said, you thought moving from, a foreign country to being successful in America would be the hardest thing you ever did, and then this was next level. So what were the early years like?
Well, first of all, I opened Dancing Diablo on January 2002. Okay. So 3 months after September 11th.
Ooh.
We were in the middle of a recession. And actually, the same month that I opened Dancing Diablo, MTV Animation closed doors. So the biggest studio in the city closed. So it wasn't an easy time. However, I got a really good project. You're gonna love this. We were doing a part of the Ninja Turtles, the
nice.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Turtles in a Half Shell.
Yep. So I got a big project, and we grew really quickly, and it was more about the pains of growing and having a too big of a client.
Too soon,
and not paying enough. So it was an amazing project. I mean, it lasted 3 or 4 years until we decided not to do it anymore. But it can really completely,
In the early years, it's hard because,
very hard. Even if it goes well, it can be really, really hard.
You feel like you want it because that's what you've been working so hard for. But if you're actually not there yet,
you're not ready. Yeah,
you're not ready. It's not going to work out, and it could actually burn a bridge in the long run. Yeah.
Well, also it's a learning curve, right? Like you think that you are prepared. I have supervised many times before, but it's not the same when you have your own shop. if you supervise in a corporation like MTV or Disney, you have the infrastructure there. So all you have to do is to do your little part of the job.
Right.
But here you're doing
and you
everything.
have people running behind you, picking up slack. And
here you're like 5 people trying to do an enormous amount of work, or 10 people, and you, especially you, are doing everything else.
Yeah.
Getting the money, making, it's just really, really hard. So. Yeah.
So where's Dancing Diablo now? How's it going?
Well, it's
been 14 years, right?
14 years. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, I've been doing a transition into Dada for the last 3 years. Basically, right now, we do just a few big projects every year. Right now, you're going to see with the Thanksgiving Day Parade coming up, all the videos and the collectible poster they do, we did it for them.
Oh, you did the campaign for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade?
Yeah.
Nice.
So all the videos that you're going to see in a couple of weeks, that's our work.
Awesome. So people listening can actually see your work. That's incredible.
Yeah. So we do a couple of big projects and maybe a few small projects but it's really all net right now. I'm concentrating on Dada.
Nice. So we'll talk a little bit more about Dada after the break. So my last question in regards to Dancing Diablo. So you opened a remote office back home, right? And then oversaw it from Brooklyn, correct?
Yeah.
So what was that like? Building out a remote office and maintaining long distance relationships. How do you run a business in a digital age where everyone isn't in the same room?
Yeah. It was we opened Dancing Diablo in 2002 and the office in Caracas in 2005, 3 years later. We opened it because we could. The Skype was instrumental for it. And I had a partner at the time, and he basically moved and opened the shop there. It was a bit of a cultural shock for me. I've been away from home for 10 years. I always go visit, but not to work there. So
right.
The thing about remote offices are like the biggest challenge, I don't think, is so much the fact that you're remote, but the cultural differences. So you really, the hardest part was to really be specific enough in every direction that you gave, so that things were done properly, and to have the trusted team, or a team that you can really trust to do what needed to be done. So to do that from Brooklyn, it was really, really hard in the beginning, but we got it to make it work. And after a while, after a few years when it was working, it just became like, okay, so I don't really need to have anything, even in the office, anybody even in the office in New York. Like sometimes we will work with people and I will just tell them, no, you can just work from home. Because it didn't matter for me. I was so used to...
You had built the processes around being fully remote, digital, and it worked so efficiently.
Yeah, so I was so used to it. It was just very, very easy to do.
How do you keep people motivated and, I guess, regimented, I guess? Is that just goes back to that trust?
Yes, totally. To me, at least. I always say I don't have a school. I'm not a teacher. I'm not anybody's mom. I try to hire people who are extremely responsible and passionate about what they do, and make sure that they love the project they're going to work on.
Passion.
That's very important. As an artist, that people will put everything into a project if they love it, right? So that's what you want to do. You don't want to hire somebody to do a job they're not really into it. And once you know what people like, then you give them exactly what they need. Mm-hmm. So
and you help them grow through the process, and it's a win-win.
So it's not so much about skills for me. Like that's there's a certain level to that, but it's really more about the commitment to the project and the trust that you can create with every person. I will say though that to create that trust, you do need to work. It's better if you work in the same room for some time, Or if you can't, at least I will go to Venezuela for, periods of time to just be with people.
Like a day or a week or a month?
Yeah, 2 weeks
Gotcha.
to 2 months,
Yeah.
right? So that you create that rapport with people and you get to know them. And then, you can just let them do what they do best.
Nice. All right, well, let's take a quick sponsor break. After the break, I want to hear all about Dada. We'll talk a little bit about the Fire Institute. I know you were recently mentioned it on Huffington Post in an article by Jeff Wald. So after the break, we'll talk about that and more. I'll be right back.
This is Ambition Today with Kevin Siskar. We'll be right back.
Today's sponsor of Ambition Today is Audible.com. Visit audibletrial.com/ambition today to download and keep any audiobook for free. So Beatriz, it's to the point where I almost don't even need to do the ad. Do you use Audible?
Oh, yeah, I do actually. A bunch of the books that I was reading, that I wanted to read for entrepreneurship and tech, I actually just got from Audible.
Nice.
And would listen to it on the subway coming here, and it was perfect.
It's great for New York commutes, right?
It's amazing because you feel like, you're getting something out of that time.
And you walk into people if you're holding a book. I've done it. You walk right into people, and then you look like you look dumb. And Audible, you just plug the headphones in, you walk around.
And in my case, because I do a lot of stuff, by hand, like if you're animating, for instance, that's a lot of time there that you spend hours. You can be listening to a book while you're animating.
So what's the most recent book you listened to?
The last book I listened to was a Thomas Piketty.
The one that came out.
Capital in the 21st century.
That's like an 800-page book.
It's 20-something hours.
Wow, did you finish it?
Yeah.
Was it good?
It was it was great, but I don't think I would have finished it if I read it though.
Yeah.
So Audible is amazing for that.
Nice. So is Capital going to be good in the future?
Well,
that's a debate for a different day.
Yeah, that's a long answer.
All right, great. So get it now, www.audibletrial.com/ambition today to download or listen to any audiobook for free with Audible.
You're listening to Ambition Today. Visit us now at siskar.co.
And we are back. We are here with Beatriz Helena Ramos, founder and CEO of Dancing Diablo and Dada. So Beatriz, you're years into, at this point, you're probably 10 years into Dancing Diablo, right? Mm-hmm. So you come up with Dada. How did Dada come about, and why, if you were already busy running one company?
Well, the main reason was because at some point after 10 years with Diablo, and we had all kind of success, and we always from the beginning worked for big companies and big clients and all of that. I felt that after 10 years I would be in a better position financially, meaning that we always needed the next project to come in order to keep going. So that made me think a lot about the structures, the finance behind the creative services. And I came up with at the end with the realization that I've been working for 15 years, creating all kind of things, and I owed nothing. I have no rights of any of the work that I've done. And that was a big problem because maybe, in other industries, you have royalties for the things that you've been doing, and then you get a check every month, which I think is, what should happen with creative industries.
As an artist and as a creator, it can wear on you, I think, if you give it all away. But you poured your heart and soul into every project, and it is a piece of you. It doesn't belong to you, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, it's they're all your children. Right. So, but at the end, that was the big realization. Is like I don't want to feel that I have to do this for the next 20 years, not having, we probably could sell Diablo at that time for a good amount of money, and I could be relatively fine or not. Or the economy all of a sudden collapse again, and then be in a position of having to work even harder. So I'd say, well, what are my options? And my options, the logical ones, were, well, maybe I can do a movie, pitch a TV show. I have all the contacts, I have the experience, but it's more of the same. So I decided to go into tech. I had no idea about anything in the industry, but I knew that that was the place where things could be changed.
So how did Dada get created?
Out of that need, out of the knowledge that there's really not a space for artists in the internet right now that I feel it's made in our terms, basically. And there is also the
terms of the artist.
Of the artist, yeah.
Right.
We're marginalized basically in terms of every, in general. So I felt that there was an opportunity in the internet because the internet is so wild and so there's so many things that still are being created, that there was an opportunity there to change those things. So Dada, it comes out of that need. I also work with hundreds and hundreds of artists in my career, so I know that the system to hire them is broken, and I know that what needs to happen to fix it. And I also think that there is an opportunity to change the financial, the bargaining power of the artist with the internet. So that's what Dada.
Nice. So what is Dada? What is it right now, and how are you doing that?
Okay, so right now Dada it's in the current. What it is right now is a visual conversation platform, meaning that anyone who is visual can speak with images. And right now it's drawings. So you create a drawing, and anyone in the world can reply with another drawing, and you create stories. There's nothing like that out there. Like, the people are really creating. They're really having dialogues and creating stories together. It's a new form. It's an old form of expression, but there hasn't been a platform that allows for that to happen until now. So what we're doing is a social network that allows visual people to speak to each other through images. So because the visual people in general tend to be artists or are enthusiasts, then we eventually are gonna monetize all the content people are creating, and creating opportunities for them to sell their work, and always keep
and bring the power back to the artist.
Yeah, always keep the intellectual property of it.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I've checked it out, and you can go right now. dada.nyc, right? Dada.nyc. I mean, it's pretty incredible. So somebody posts, a picture of this bird-looking thing. Somebody responds with their own incarnation of a similar image. Somebody then responds, and you have this morphing, almost like going down a gallery wall of the same concept being explored through different people's talents, different people's visions, different people. But it's all it feels like it's connected in the same way.
It's amazing. And sometimes it's just like stories, like it looks like a comic book, or sometimes it's just like a long painting created by different people in different countries.
Yeah, and this is like the first one started with someone in Mexico, then someone in the United States responded, someone else in the U.S., someone else in Venezuela, and so you get this global. It's truly
incredible.
It's hard to put into words. You just kind of have to see it.
You have to see it, yeah. And the thing is that it creates, because it's a unique way of communicating. Like, to me, I always say, like, it might take me an hour to compose a good tweet. It's just not my thing. So I can make, 10 really good drawings in that amount of time. So, but because it's a different way of communicating, what happens is that you really connect with the person who is responding you, because you're putting a lot of time, and you're putting, you're being transparent there. You're just putting yourself out there. And then somebody else comes and listens to you and responds back with the same transparency. So it's really amazing. And I've been talking to some of our users, and we got people telling us that they stopped using Facebook since they're on Dada, for instance.
Oh, wow.
Which is very powerful, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I know recently you've seen some growth, some rapid growth. What is that attributed to? Any recommendations to other founders, entrepreneurs out there of things they should be trying or iterating on? Or
yeah, no, definitely we know exactly where the traction came. We made a Facebook app version of Dada where you could, from Facebook, just go in and do a drawing, and it's inherently viral because, you're in Facebook and every drawing that you do automatically shares on Facebook. People see it. If I respond to you, it will say Beatriz responded to Kevin's, and it will tag you and me and everybody else in the conversation. So it's inherently viral. And what happened was that with Facebook ads made the whole thing happen. So we got 50,000 new users in 7 weeks.
Nice, and growing from there. So what's next for Dada?
Well, the next thing, it's like, we finally got the traction and we got really engaged users. We right now are optimizing the product. We know there are a million little things that we need to improve. The next thing will be raising money and preparing for start getting revenues, like how preparing the platform so that artists can sell their stuff.
Nice. So I know, like, the next question is regards to running 2 companies. I know you said you were transitioning away from Dancing Diablo to Dada, but currently you still have 2 companies. Elon Musk gets away with it with Tesla and SpaceX. Jack Dorsey is now running Twitter and Square, but for months everyone was saying, "Oh, how can you run 2 companies?" So how do you juggle running 2 companies?
It doesn't feel that difficult right now, really, because I know so much the DNA of Diablo that it's very easy for me to manage it. So even when we have big projects, I have the team to do it so that it doesn't take me much time. So it's really been easy, that part. So I've been able to just put, I would say, 90% of my time on Dada, which is where is more required.
Nice. All right, cool. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about, so actually a Founder Institute mentor, Jeff Wald, wrote an article recently in the Huffington Post mentioning and talking about you, the mentor-mentee relationship. Can you tell me a little bit about that story?
Sure. Well, I love Jeff. It's been an amazing relationship to work with him. Jeff, I asked him. He was the first person that I asked to be in our advisory board because I felt that he was the farthest away from me, like the person, like the complete opposite of me.
Yeah, complementary.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But it really, like, an alpha male, Harvard kind of like finance guy, venture capitalist,
But also an entrepreneur himself.
And he was actually, his company it's a transaction company between clients and freelancers. It's a marketplace. So he had also a resonance to what we were trying to do. But especially, I was especially interested in the fact that he would probably think very, very different than I did. So I wanted somebody who not only mentor me and show me, how to do certain things that I didn't know, but also to challenge my perceptions of things.
And I think that's important because I think so often than not, people are like, "Oh, I want to build my board of directors or my advisory board with really just people that'll just echo me and keep me in power and keep me as fun and maybe
cheerleaders, yeah.
Yeah, cheerleaders but intentionally putting people there to challenge you and having the confidence and the introversion to be able to see that having people that better you and the openness to accept those changes is huge.
Yeah, no, I was completely open to that, and I was lucky that actually Jeff is an incredible mentor. So he's extremely generous with his knowledge, and he's really, really respectful of our time together. So he makes sure that I get a value out of every meeting that we have together. So it's incredible. He can be harsh and direct in his in the way he gives you feedback, but I'm completely happy with that.
Yeah, sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. That's what
Yeah.
I need. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, if any of you guys listening want to check it out, the article is called Why I Mentor by Jeff Wald on the Huffington Post. Check it out. Great article, especially if you yourself are currently looking for a mentor or a mentee even, and what that relationship entails. So, all right, moving on. It is time for the Ambition Today question of the day. So today's Ambition Today question of the day is, Beatriz, what does ambition mean to you? How do you define it?
Ambition to me personally
Yep.
is, I would say, is the desire to do the impossible, and the drive and having the drive to go for it.
Okay. Anything more elaborated on that, or?
Well, in general, people tend to put ambition at this, close to to be competitive, and I don't. I'm not a competitive person at all. I believe in collaboration, so I'm more interested in synergy. So for me, ambition means collaborating with other people in accomplishing the most difficult, impossible task, and believing that you can really change it.
So I feel most people, when they hear the word ambition, they think about that first step, like having a desire. But when I think of ambition, I think of like the desire is like the baby first step, and then going after it is what really there. How important is that in your own experience? Obviously?
Oh, yeah, no, that's all. Because, everybody has ideas, but to actually go for them. And at some point in my career, I actually felt, that was a long time ago, but I actually felt that the success meant the capacity, like to be successful was the capacity to endure all the stuff that was coming at you.
Yeah.
Like if you endure enough, then you probably get there. So yeah, you need to have it. You need to have it.
Great. Well, I think that's it's been an incredible story. I just want to thank you for coming on the episode. Where can people go to find out more about you, Dancing Diablo, Dada? Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, our Twitter is Power Dada, and my personal one is at Dancing Diablo. And please go to the website. You'll see it as soon as you get to home. You understand what we're doing. It's DADA.NYC.
Dada.NYC. No Snapchat, Beam, link.
See, this is the
Yik Yak. We can go down all these.
But this is why we're creating our own social network.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the whole point. Those things doesn't work for me.
Right. They don't work for the artist, the creator.
Well, for me at least,
Yeah.
and a bunch of people that I know.
Who happen to be artist careers. All right, great. Well, thank you. This has been an incredible episode, and I will see you next time. Hopefully have you back on a future episode.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you all for listening, and see you on the next episode of Ambition Today.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Ambition Today with your host, Kevin Siskar. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit www.siskar.co. We'll catch you next time.